candidate forum for chairman of the Whitfield County Board of Commissioners. The League of Women Voters of the Dalton Area Incorporated is sponsoring this program. The League is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Questions have been given to the participants in advance for the purpose of allowing each candidate to prepare a thoughtful answer to each issue. The order of candidate answers was predetermined in advance by the candidates. And we will begin with incumbent Lynn Louder. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Connie. And as Connie stated, I am Lynn Lauder, the current chairman of the Whitfield County Board of Commissioners. I'd like to take this time to thank the League of Women Voters for giving me this opportunity. Let me say to start with that I have always tried to run a positive campaign and focus on what I bring to the office. Ben and I have lived in Whitfield County for 34 years. We raised our 3 children here because they were 4, 6, and 8 when we moved. I have served in many volunteer capacities during that time. Charlie Bowen, that sweet dear man, recruited me to be the treasurer of Habitat for Humanity in 1987. I served on the Habitat Board for 21 years. In addition to treasurer, I served as president and vice president during those 21 years. I'm very active in my church and have served on the staff committee, the finance committee, and as chairman of the budget committee. The chamber recruited me for the Chamber Board of Commerce in 2003. I served as treasurer of chairman during the 9 years I was on that board. I also served as chairman of the Archway Partnership. I have experience being the chairman of several organizations. I'm also on the investment committee of the Dalton State College Foundation, overseeing the investments of the foundation. We are living truly through unprecedented times. I feel like I've said the word unprecedented more in the last 6 weeks than I've said in the whole my whole life. Workers are laid off, businesses are suffering, and our national healthcare system is threatened by a dangerous pandemic. No one in living memory has seen times quite like these. At the same time, our county has seen tremendous progress in these past 4 years. Better jobs with higher pay are locating in our community. Home values are increasing. There are now 2 full-time firefighters at every county fire station, and rural areas in the county are within 5 miles of a fire station. We are a community on the rise. We have come far these past 4 years. I have been chairman of the Board of Commissioners, and we have much further to go. I urge the voters of Whitfield County to choose the candidate of honesty, experience, and results. You have my word that I will always deal fairly with you and tell you the truth. I humbly ask for your vote.
Challenger Jevin Jensen, you have also 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Especially thank you to Connie and League of Women Voters for sponsoring our forum tonight. I really appreciate that. You know, I started talking with our fellow citizens, really from all walks of life last fall. And I did a lot of listening and not a lot of talking. And I heard a lot of concerns that they had with their families, trying to raise their kids, making ends meet. And I thought a lot about that after hearing their concerns. And I put together a plan. And when I announced 5 months ago, I announced that plan. And that 5 months feels like a long time ago. But that's the thing about a plan. If it's a good plan, it becomes even more urgent when you face a crisis like we are today. So what is that plan? Well, first, I want to reduce our property taxes. In the last 8 years, our property taxes have gone up 2 times. So if you have a $150,000 home, that's $430 per year that you're paying extra. That is not sustainable, especially if we are facing an economic crisis in the future. Second, I'd like to make sure people can stay in their homes. I'm concerned, and a lot of citizens are concerned. We had the crisis back in 2009 where a lot of people were forced out of their homes. So I will work with state and local officials to make sure when your property taxes are due that we give you time to pay those and waive those late fees. And finally, and most important, I do want to focus on jobs. Not just more jobs, but better paying jobs. We have looked over our small businesses and ignored them, and I think it's time to focus back on small businesses and the needs that they have. been really good to me and my wife and my family. We recently purchased a small business up in Varnell, and thankfully to the employees, we've really doubled the size of it and grown it substantially. I hope that you will consider me for your chairman of Whitfield County.
Thank you. And we now move to the question portion of the forum. We will begin with Jevin. Your first question is, what qualifications do you have that you think makes you the best candidate for this position?
Well, I feel I'm uniquely qualified to be your chairman. And I say that because I spent 20 years in the flooring industry prior to purchasing our small business that I just mentioned. During that time, I managed a tens of millions of dollars in budget, which is similar to the size of Whitfield County. I also had a team of hundreds that worked for me globally, and they had a diverse set of backgrounds, and I led that team successfully. We opened our small business, so I have that experience as well. I've negotiated contracts in the millions of dollars with some of the toughest companies in the United States, AT&T, IBM, and others. So I feel like I have a good skills in negotiating as well. And finally, I've attended over 120 Whitfield County and City Council meetings. So I didn't just sit there. When I thought that something wasn't right and they weren't representing the voters, I spoke out. And I made relationships with department managers, with the mayors, and with the city council members. That has given me deep insight to the budgets, and I think I can make the right decisions for our county.
Thank you. And Lynn, you also have 1 minute to answer this question. What qualifications do you have that you think makes you the best candidate for this position?
I'm going to have to talk really fast. I think 3 things qualify me for this position. My education, being a successful small business owner for 20 plus years, and my history of service to my community, including my 8 years of experience as a commissioner. I'm a certified financial planner. I own Lauder & Jones Financial Management along with my partner, Miller Jones. We manage the investments of many people, including the retirement savings of numerous clients across this county, this state, and many other states. I hold a master's in business administration from Northwestern University's Kellogg Graduate School of Management in Chicago with concentrations in finance and accounting. My experience is I first ran for office in 2012. I have to say, when I first ran for office, I realized rather quickly that I had a lot to learn about being a commissioner. I spent time in 13 and 14 and taken all the required courses to become a certified commissioner. I am now working on specializations in finance and economic development, which are a level above the basic courses. I have had 4 years as a commissioner for District 4, and I am in my 4th year as commission chairman. With 8 years experience as a commissioner, a record of leadership across our county, and as a successful small business owner, I am the most qualified to continue to hold this position.
Thank you. And Lynn, question 2 will begin with you.
Okay.
And that is, do you expect the county to have a shortage of funds going into the next fiscal year? If so, how would you propose to manage this?
Connie, I certainly do expect that we're going to have a shortage of funds, but for how long, no one can say. No one really knows how long the coronavirus will be impacting our local economy. A large part of the county's revenue stream comes from sales taxes. With the present situation in the economy, I expect that sales tax revenue will drop for all local and state governments. Obviously, a reduction in expenditures would be necessary with a drop in revenue. Your commissioners and department heads will work diligently together to reduce expenditures and balance our budget. As an example, the commissioners have already postponed the purchase of some vehicles. Look, no one likes property taxes, including me. Let me explain. The county went through a forced sales tax negotiation with the city of Dalton in 2012. This negotiation reduced the county share of sales taxes and created special tax district in which only property owners in the county paid. This greatly reduced revenue to the county. Also, we were coming out of a terrible recession with property values at their lowest. Our homes have increased in value. This is a positive economic trend that benefits us all. You especially like this when you're trying to sell your house. But the downside is that it comes with increased property taxes.
Thank you, Lynn. Jevin, same question. Do you expect the county to have a shortage of funds going into the next fiscal year? If so, how would you propose to manage that?
Well, I saw the state just recently announced that they're expecting a 14% shortfall Now, they're funded a little differently than the county, but the sales tax portion of the county is probably going to be less than expected, certainly less than last year. So I am concerned about that. Because I've studied the budget so closely, I know we have several sources we can go to when we have that shortfall. One, we just did a $2.5 million transfer from the Solid Waste Authority. Let's make sure we don't spend that. Let's save that in case there is a shortfall in some of the revenue. We also have a bond payment from the Carbondale that expires this year. That's about $600,000 to $800,000 savings in principal and interest. Let's make sure we don't spend that and that we use that as part of our cushion. And then finally, we had a surplus last year of 1.8 to 1.9 million. So that's another place that we can go without having to cut services or lay off employees. So I think that's important. And also, I want to emphasize that I've been on 4 different board of director organizations, and those are some of those are multi-million-dollar organizations, and we also have to watch our budget and make tough decisions, and I'm willing to do that.
Thank you. Jevin, I'm going to start with you for question 3, and that is, what is your view of the dispute between the city and county over the division of sales tax funds? How do you think similar problems can be avoided in the future?
Okay, I believe this is related to the service delivery agreement from last year, and I thought that entire situation was completely avoidable and unnecessary. So we had 10 years notice that this was expiring, and then it expired, and we didn't have an agreement, and we had a 1-year extension, and according to the newspaper, for that 1-year extension, we did not meet for 9 to 10 months between the city or the county. To me, that's a failure of leadership. If I was in there, we would keep meeting. We'd meet every week. We'd meet every month. If the meetings go poorly, then they just go poorly, and we agree to disagree, and let's meet again until we can solve it. A friend of mine once said that you don't win arguments, you win agreements. So that's what you have to do. We want to have a win-win with Dalton. Dalton can't live without Whitfield County, and Whitfield County can't live without Dalton.
Very good. Lynn, same question for you. What is your view of the dispute between the city and county over the division of sales tax funds? How do you think similar problems can be avoided in the future?
The last negotiation was held in 2012, right before I took office in 2013. The 2012 agreement did significantly increase the city's share of sales taxes and decrease the county's share. In 2012, the county received 83% of the sales tax, and now in 2020, we are receiving 61.556%, which, as you can see, is a significant reduction for the county. 83% was probably too high, but I definitely believe that 61.556% is too low, with the county having 70% of the population. I truly had trouble understanding why the city was so upset about that agreement when they've been getting such a higher percentage of the sales tax for those 10 years. I was at a city council meeting in the fall of 18 when Jevin here presented information that he thought city residents were paying too much in county taxes. The city elected to hire an out-of-county attorney and then filed a petition to force court-ordered mediation as a precursor to a potential lawsuit. This cost the city taxpayers money. The next negotiations in 2022 will result in some type of adjustments, but I don't think they will be as extreme as the last negotiations. State law lays out the considerations to be taken into account for the division of the sales taxes. If both sides can keep emotions out of the negotiations and stick to the data and follow state guidelines, then I think the problems can be minimized. Not eliminated, but minimized. You can be sure I will seek a fair division of the sales tax between the county and the city.
Thank you, Lynn. Jevin, you were just mentioned by Lynn, so I'm going to give you 1 minute to reply.
Okay, she mentioned that I was at a meeting at City Council, which like I mentioned earlier, I've been to dozens and dozens of those meetings, so that is probably accurate. I did request about 2 years ago a copy of the service delivery agreement because I wanted to educate myself, and I got that from several members that were on a committee to look at that agreement. It was interesting because some of it is handwritten, some of it is extremely out of date that nobody would disagree with. It's just stuff that nobody does anymore and doesn't need to be in the agreement. So I found that to be very educational to learn about the agreement, to read it. I did not ask anybody to sue anyone. I do not like attorneys getting involved in assets, so I had made no claim for that whatsoever. I did not make a claim that the city was paying more. They ended up agreeing that there was a few $100,000 that in paving that needed to be done. I think that was pretty clear in the agreement, but that was it. I did not recommend any lawsuits. I did not make that presentation even. I was just at the meeting, and that's all.
Are you saying you did not make a presentation at that meeting?
No.
You and Kathy Holmes didn't make the presentation?
Kathy Holmes made the presentation, and I was out of town during that specific meeting. There was other meetings where they talked about it. I was not at that meeting. We're happy to go back and look at the minutes if you like.
Yes, we'll need to do that because I remember that fairly clearly.
Yep.
But
No, I was not there.
let's move on.
Okay, and start with Jevin. Would you support restrictions of fracking in Whitfield County?
Well, fracking was not profitable in Whitfield County last year when oil was $60 a barrel, and it's definitely not going to be profitable now when it's $20 a barrel. So I don't anticipate any fracking for years to come, if ever. It's basically banned in the city because we have zoning and we have noise ordinances, so there's not going to be any fracking in any of the city limits for sure. In the county, I would definitely support restrictions and regulations to make sure that it's safe if we even go down that road.
Thank you, Jevin. Lynn, how would you support restrictions on fracking in Whitfield County?
In the big picture, the United States should be energy independent. Fracking has allowed our country to move in that direction. In the smaller picture, you would be telling people what they could or could not do with their own property. The U.S. Constitution and the Georgia Constitution provide for due process when you affect individuals' property rights. That due process would require some sort of governmental hearing on what is acceptable and what is not. I support proper regulation of fracking, not elimination of fracking, with considerations of the property rights of property owners as well as the property rights of adjoining property owners. I would include regulations on noise, proximity to private housing, disposal of fracking mud, and flaring. Basically, we need to protect our environment, particularly groundwater.
Thank you, Lynn.
With all of that being said, given the excess capacity in the energy markets we currently enjoy, it is currently a moot point.
Okay. And the next question, we will go with Lynn to begin again. Do you think the county needs to increase efforts to include a more diverse pool of candidates for selections to positions on local boards? If so, what would you propose?
Obviously, I'm a champion for diversity. After all, I'm only the second woman to serve on the Whitfield County Board of Commissioners and the first to serve as chairman of the board. That is in a 150-year history. I would like to see a more diverse pool of candidates. I worked diligently to recruit more diverse members when I was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce and chairman of the Archway Partnership. Diversity in candidates for selection to positions is a visual representation of diversity in our community. It is important for members of the community to see people like themselves in positions on local boards. Diversity brings different opinions and life experiences to the positions. A better understanding by the citizens of how many appointments are made for boards and what these positions entail will bring out more people wanting and able to serve. It is up to the elected officials to make those openings known to the citizen.
Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
And Jevin, the same question for you. Do you think the county needs to increase efforts to include a more diverse pool of candidates for selection to positions on local boards? If so, what would you propose?
Yes, I certainly favor diversity on those boards. We have quite a few boards, and you constantly see the same people coming up. And I appreciate those people volunteering and year after year after year agreeing to serve, but we really need to improve the outreach. I would propose reaching down to the younger generation, and I think I can bridge that gap and bring people both from the older and the younger generation together and get them more involved in the community. I think that's where we're lacking. And once you get someone involved, then you're going to reap all the benefits. So I would propose that we look at term limits for these boards. These are voluntary, non-profit boards as part of the county, and the commissioners have term limits. So why would we not want to put term limits on the boards that they appoint? I think that's reasonable, and that kind of forces your hand, forces you to come up with a job description, a roles and responsibilities for these board members, and then to reach out and find new candidates.
Thank you. Jevin, I will start with you for question 7. Do you think the county's industrial park project is successful? Why or why not?
Well, 10 or 12 years ago when it first started, it was definitely a noble experiment. We wanted to diversify our economy. We wanted to get more visible across the country and even across the world, to get more looks, to get more interest in Whitfield County. That's where it started. I don't know that we expected that we'd have to give away the property or we'd have to give away 10 years worth of taxes. to attract the first full-time tenant. We had one tenant that relocated and expanded from Whitfield County, and we have one new tenant to Whitfield County. I have no problem with Q-Cells. They're a good company. It does check the box as far as diversification, but did we pay enough? Did we wait 10 years to get that one tenant? I think another side effect of giving away all those tax dollars and all that free land was that the businesses that have been here 25 and 30 years, they've been adding jobs, and the only thing that's happened to them is their taxes have gone up. So there's some real resentment in the small and medium-sized businesses in our community, and I think I want to return the focus to the small businesses, and we'll finish up this experiment as soon as possible.
Thank you, Devin. Same question, Lynn. Do you think the county's industrial park project is successful? Why or why not?
I think the best thing for you to do is ask the workers at the new Q-Cell solar panel company that opened in the park in 19 what they think of their new higher paying jobs. And that'll be the best answer you hear. Yes, the industrial park has been a success. You can talk to the people in Chattanooga, and they worked 20 years to locate a company like Volkswagen to their park. It takes a long time to do these kind of things. We had 3 purposes for having the park. The first was to draw the attention of the State Department of Economic Development so they would refer projects to us. The second was to diversify our local economy. And of course, we all know that our bread and butter remains the floor covering industry, and local economic development supports them as well. Finally, the park allowed the county to have a publicly controlled business park so we could compete with other counties around us that have business parks.
Thank you. And the final question of this forum will begin with Lynn, and the question is, are there any services you think the county and city could combine that would be beneficial and save taxpayer money?
A few years ago, a commission was appointed by the cities and county to study this issue. The members of the commission took more than a year doing just that. Their conclusion was a merger would be too expensive. There were 3 main issues. The county did not have packaged liquor sales at the time, and county law, they discovered, would govern in that situation. The second issue was our fire department, and the third issue was the Dalton Utilities and the transfer tax that is given to them. We have spent millions of dollars, mainly through SPLOS, building a new fire station, buying new equipment, and we have achieved a fire ISO rating of 3. So now that wouldn't, be as much of an issue as it was back then. I took proposals to the city year before last of merging the recreation department and the fire department because those departments already work really well together, and they were rejected by the city. I think our residents need to understand that not all combinations would save money, but there may be value that is not monetary, but would foster community-wide engagement and enable our governments to work together well.
Thank you. Jevin, same question for you, and that is, are there any services you think the county and city could combine that would be beneficial and save taxpayer money?
Well, a merger would not be supported by the county voters, and I would never propose a merger. There are some good examples of where we can save money. I don't want to go as far as saying we should combine the rec department and the fire departments. I think that goes too far as well. But there's definitely opportunities for what I call cooperation. So for example, the rec department. There's a lot of participants in kids in the county, and there are a lot of great fields in Dalton. So that's a natural cooperation that we can have. So we can use Dalton fields, we can maintain it, save Dalton some money, and our kids in the county can also use those fields without having to build expensive new fields. So that's kind of a win-win, and those are the kind of cooperations I would look for, but not merging the fire departments, and not a full merger for sure.
And now we will begin the closing statements, and we're going to start out with Jevin.
Thank you. I have heard during this campaign loud and clear that the voters and the citizens of Whitfield County want to hear and can be considered customers of our services. They want to be treated with respect. They want to have common sense solutions, and I think that's what I presented here today. As an owner of a small business, I know how to service customers. We service 400, 500 customers a day sometimes, and I want to treat all the voters as my customer. That's the respect that they're owed, and I hope you will agree. That we also need an economic recovery plan. That's what I talked about earlier. We need to reduce taxes, we need to help families stay in their homes, and we need to focus on small businesses and helping those survive that need more help than some of these larger corporations. That's where the growth is. That's where the opportunity is. There was a mention earlier of our economic income levels. The facts are that we are behind the median income for the state by thousands of dollars. The state of Georgia is behind the U.S. income level by thousands of dollars. If you look at where we were 10 years ago, we have not quite recovered from that income level even today. So there's a lot of work to do, and that's what I want to focus on, bringing not just better jobs, but higher paying jobs. I hope you will consider voting for me on June 9th, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jevin. Lynn, it is your turn.
Again, let me say I appreciate so much the League of Women Voters for giving me this opportunity to reach out to the citizens of Whitfield County. Campaigning while you're actually in office with responsibilities is always challenging and has been especially so during this pandemic. Leading our county through these challenging times has been my #1 priority. I have been representing Whitfield County along with our Emergency Management Director, Claude Craig, on the COVID-19 task force. I have also been holding twice weekly live stream calls bringing information to our residents, and you can still see those calls on our county website. And I have been doing all of this while still managing my clients' investments and retirement funds during these difficult economic times. Whitfield County needs steady leadership in these challenging times. The coronavirus has generated society-wide anxiety for the residents of Whitfield County, the state of Georgia, the U.S., and in fact, the entire world. Our community needs a chairman with the experience to lead and achieve the results that matter. I have served as a leader in this community for decades and as an elected official for almost 8 years now. I need zero on-the-job training and have a wealth of experience to draw from. I will work day and night to ensure our community recovers from this virus and continues with the progress we are making. I work hard for our county, which of course includes the 4 cities of Cohutta, Dalton, Tunnel Hill, and Varnell. We are all residents of the county. During my tenure as commissioner and as chairman, we have achieved a first-class fire department, excellent recreation with new facilities enjoyed by many, and significant economic development success. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve you all these years. I ask you once again for your vote on June 9th, or earlier if you're using a mail-in ballot. Whitfield County needs steady and experienced leadership in these challenging times.
Thank you. Thank you both.
The League of Women Voters of the Dalton Area Incorporated is hosting candidate forums for the races of Clerk of Superior Court of Whitfield County, Magistrate Judge of Whitfield County, County Commissioner for District 1, and State Senate District 54. Watch these forums, moderated by North Georgia Television's Connie Hall Scott, on North Georgia Television's WDNN and WDGA-TV in the weeks leading up to the primary election on June 9th. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages and informs active participation of citizens in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy.
Jevin Jensen is the leader Whitfield County's Board of Commissioners needs. Jevin spent years in the flooring industry, owns a small business, volunteers at church and on the boards of local nonprofits. He will lead our economic recovery after the viral outbreak has passed. Jevin has a clear strategy to keep families in their homes, reduce your property taxes, which have more than doubled in the last 8 years, and invest in common sense projects that create good jobs. For effective leadership, elect Jevin Jensen chairman.
The League of Women Voters of the Dalton Area Incorporated hopes this program has been helpful in making a decision about which candidate to select in this race. The general primary election date is now set for June 9th. Because of COVID-19 issues, the League would like to encourage voters to send in a request for an absentee ballot in advance. You may make such a request or check the status of your submitted request by checking the Georgia Secretary of State's election site. Ballots will be sent to you and may be mailed or dropped in the designated box at the Whitfield County Courthouse. If you have questions or concerns about this process, you can contact the local elections department at 706-278-7183. Thank you for watching.